Good evening, everybody. My name is John Allen Namu. I work for Africa Uncensored. I'm a co-founder here. There's still some people in the waiting room, so I'll just add them to the room and then we can get started in a few minutes. Thank you very much for joining me and for being on time. I really appreciate it. As you might have seen on our socials, the discussion is about the legacy of extrajudicial killings in Kenya. So just give us a moment to add people to the room and then we can get started. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Thank you once again for joining us here and join the newsroom. This is an initiative, a newsroom initiative by Africa Uncensored. We are an investigative and in-depth journalism publication based here in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us for what is, might be an impromptu conversation, but one that's really important for us to have in light of what's been going on with respect to possible extrajudicial killings, I should say, and cases and continuing cases of police brutality in Kenya. As you can see on your screens right now, these are some of the house rules that we have every month when we host this conversation. Join the newsroom. So as you can see, keep your microphone on mute until selected to speak. Use the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Don't be disruptive. We'd like everybody to speak, or we'd like as many people to speak. Sorry, excuse me one moment. But we'd like for the conversations to be respectful. And given that many of the people in the room are Kenyans, let's have questions and no questions that are actually comments. Try and keep them brief. And let's try and see if we can get some light out of this discussion. So I'll stop sharing now and we can get to the discussion. So the reason why we have chosen to have this conversation is, of course, because of the news that's been coming out of Embu, specifically Kianjokoma, with the death of two brothers, Bernard and Emmanuel, 19 and 21 years old. Allegedly, I should say at this point in time, it is not confirmed how they died or in whose or under what circumstances, although they were last seen in police custody past curfew hours this past Sunday. It has caused quite a bit of a firestorm online as well as offline. There have been day-long protests in Embu, and unfortunately an additional person has been killed, confirmed dead, shot in the head during those protests, with one other person severely injured. The reason, again, perhaps the bigger reason and the more broad reason that we're having this discussion this evening is because this isn't the first time, nor the second, or the third, or the fourth. This is a long-running issue in Kenya, especially when it comes to the police's interaction with the public, more specifically over this COVID-19 period, with the curfew restrictions that have been put in place by government, supposedly to protect people from contracting the virus and to try and keep numbers and numbers in public spaces low and to contain the spread of the virus. All noble and perhaps necessary measures in the light of the spread of the Delta variant now. But another pandemic, so to speak, is something that we've observed here at Africa Uncensored, and many people on this call have observed, which is the pandemic of extrajudicial killings and of police brutality. So I'll begin, and before I launch into this discussion, for the new people who are on the call this evening, Join the Newsroom really isn't a panel discussion, so to speak. It's really an opportunity for members of our newsletter or subscribers of our newsletter to be able to contribute to the discussions that we have in the newsroom, perhaps give us more insight, further insight into what's happening around them in current affairs, as well as longer running issues. So it's really an opportunity. It's really an opportunity for members and subscribers of our newsletter, as well as the wider members of our audience, to contribute to how we cover our content and make sure that we're doing the best that we can to bring important public interest topics to light, and do them in such a way that they're appreciated and they have the impact that is desired. So in that way, it's different from other kinds of discussions. It's also, as we've seen over the past 4 editions, a learning opportunity for people to learn about new issues or perhaps deepen their knowledge about things that they perhaps are curious about. On the call, we have people from civil society, from various reaches of civil society, members of the Police Reform Working Group. Thank you very much for joining us at short notice. Members of the Madare Social Justice Center, and Jerry, I can see you on the call this evening, as well as members of the public, journalists, and people who are generally interested in this subject. So I'll launch into the discussion with a question, and whoever is willing to answer, is interested in answering, please just put up your hand and I'll give you the opportunity to speak and we can go there. Over this 1 hour or so, we'd like to focus ourselves on what the legacy of policing in Kenya and police brutality is in this country. So let's try and see if we can do that and also discuss some of those wider issues. So my first question to get this started, and this can be answered by anybody. You can just put, like I said, with the housekeeping rules, just put your hand up under the reactions pane over here at the bottom. You should be able to raise your hand. I'll see you and I'll be able to get to you. Really, what, in terms of the legacy of policing, what are the numbers, right? I'll share with you something that missingvoices.co.ke, one of the few organizations that have really been gathering information on the subject, have been doing. So I'll share my screen in a second to be able to ensure that we are talking about the same things. 1 second. So hopefully everybody can see the screen right now. These outside of government statistics would be perhaps the more reliable statistics that we have on extrajudicial killings or killings related to police-related killings, incidents where police have been involved. And these are the numbers from 2021. January, 7 police killings. February, 6. March, 11. And 2 disappearances. In April, 7 cases as a result of 5 separate incidents. So this is not counting May, June, and July, right? But look at this. Men are most likely to be killed by the police in most cases, accounting for 60% of the murders or enforced disappearances. This is something that's more of a long-running issue. So I'll stop sharing there and start my question to the audience there. When we see young men, such as the 2 young men, Emmanuel and Bernard, who unfortunately lost their lives, in an incident, at least from what we've seen, possibly on Sunday. What does that say to you with regard to the methods of policing, or rather even the targets of policing in Kenya? I'll start there. Anybody who's on the call can just raise their hands and perhaps explain a bit better. Then we can get to some of the people who are directly involved with this issue on a daily basis. And as you raise your hand to speak, you can introduce yourself. If you're willing to, you can put on your camera so that we can see you and converse on this issue. So Agre, you can unmute your mic and go ahead. Agre Juma. Agri Juma from International Justice Mission, I believe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Evening. Go
yes,
ahead.
I am.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for setting the program. When we see young men being killed in the manner that is being documented by Missing Voices, what that shows, or what the effect of that, one of the key effects of that is that we are seeing a generation being wiped out. And I think our colleagues from MSJC will tell you the experiences we are seeing at the slum areas, where a lot of young men who are at their prime are being, exterminated, by the police, and for different reasons. Some are petty crimes, people who are trying to reject extortion. Some are, vengeance. Some are just to pass a message. And what it shows is that we have a police service that has a very rich legacy of killings. And I think most of the time we've said that a lot of these killings are as a result of the colonial legacy that came on, that we took over when we got independence. But we've had generations of police officers. I think currently the new age police officers are a majority compared to the ones who were there in those early days. But the typologies, the methods of killings and disappearances that we are seeing are still the same ones, which to an observer, to a keen observer, it would indicate almost a very rich apprenticeship program on issues of violation of human rights, which is very telling and very disturbing. So to say.
Agri, I'll just stay with that last thought. An apprenticeship into human rights abuses, an apprenticeship into extrajudicial killings. The police have standing orders. The police have the law to guide them. The police have the Kiganjo training school. And the police have years and years and years of experience in policing, and perhaps comparative to the region, one of the most stellar records in policing. So is this, and this is a question that, or rather this is a response that police spokespeople, including the IG, have given to issues like this, that this is a case of a few bad apples, right? But you're contradicting that. Please explain why you'd so strongly contribute, or rather contradict an assertion like that, that it's a few bad apples.
And having worked with very closely with the police over the years as an institution and also as an individual, the blueprint that informs the training of police officers is quite well established in terms of human rights and all the parameters, use of force, community policing, on all the necessary parameters for them to be able to conduct their policing work in a manner that is respectful of human rights. I think the challenge when it comes to the constables, the newly posted constables who come into the service, is the issue of supervision and mentorship when they arrive at their posting. From our observation, there seems to be a disconnect between the mentorship they receive on the ground when it comes to policing from a police station level and the training they receive from the schools. And similarly, there seems to be a disconnect between the higher ranks of the service and the intermediate ranks. I think, the sergeant, if you ask me, plays a very key role in ensuring that the constables are well inducted into the service. And if the sergeant has been in service for the last 30 years without retraining, their understanding of the protocols and parameters necessary for protecting and respecting human rights are as far as the last time they were in a class on human rights. And what they will be inducting the new constables on is outdated and sometimes not even policing. And so from what we are seeing, it seems as though that bit seems to be working and delivering more compared to the other training, formal training that is received from Kiganjo, Embakasi, Magadi, and all these other places where police conduct their training.
Okay, I want to share my screen again and just share some more of those statistics from Missing Voices Kenya. And here we are, right? So the assertion that, and I apologize if my connection is a bit unstable. We're having a bit of a fiber cut and fiber issues here where I am. Hopefully we'll be able to conduct this conversation smoothly. And Agri, as well as other people, can now join in. Agri, you can mute for now to see if we can get other people also discuss this issue. But we'll come back to you. Don't leave the call yet. So look at the pane on your left. 46% of the people that were killed in anti-crime operations, right? And another large percentage, about half that, in anti-terror operations and political demonstration, and then others, right? This is an important statistic to try and dig into. There are various offenses that could fall under anti-crime. If there's anybody on the call, by the way, who contributed to this kind of data, it would be important for us to kind of understand it. But herein lie the reasons that the police would say, we were within our rights to kill somebody because they were caught in the commission of a serious crime and that sort of thing. Let me go to Jerry from Mathare Social Justice Center. Jerry, when the police say that people were arrested or killed committing various crimes, from your point of view, from the point of view of people in informal settlements, lower middle class areas, and generally people who come into contact with the police, what does this mean to them? Is this really what people experience? Because the police have this kind of reasoning with respect to why they kill. Jerry.
So thank you for inviting us to these discussions. First, I could like to answer your question by saying we already have like proper system put in place, and such systems are like prison. So if maybe someone is caught in maybe a crime, he or she should be taken through the system and maybe be sentenced and serve the sentence given to her or him by the judge. So when police say they kill people because maybe they were criminals, for me, I don't, and maybe for Mathare Social Justice, we don't tend to believe them. Maybe I could give an example of a young boy who was killed yesterday. His name is Nyamai. Nyamai is 15 years old, and he was shot dead by a gang. I call it a gang. It's a group of rogue policemen from Pangani police station. And from what they are saying is that Nyamai was a criminal. So if maybe more, according to the statistics, if the police say that the most people that they kill or they gun down are maybe criminals, or maybe they are attached to criminal links, because in Kenya we have proper channel laid down properly, that if someone someone is not guilty,
Yes, Karuki. Good afternoon from Karuki Imlu. Please go ahead.
Karaoke, you can,
I think,
you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for why is that person not being taken to court to face the law. So I think that aspect of police killing suspects in a group is something that we are seeing as a new trend that is so unfortunate right now, and Missing Voices has continued to track such killing. And I think even when we look at the numbers that have not even been published for May, June, and July, they are quite high. I mean, the numbers are double even what we've had since January to July.
Perhaps a follow-up question to you would be, if you're to wear the other hat of a security agent or a security officer, so in a criminal justice system, it is them who collect the evidence, so the prosecution could prosecute it. What challenges do they exactly say they face that now lead them to decide to terminate someone's life or eliminate someone instead of actually gathering that evidence to make sure that a judge convicts them, right? I can see my senior, Ramadan Rajabe here, who could also contribute to the same. Yes, Karuki, you could go ahead.
I think that question can be well answered by Agre Juma, who is a lawyer.
Yes. Yeah, I think it calls for the issues around the use of force and proportionality in how use of force is applied to different circumstances. And so one of the issues that come with that from a security agency perspective is my use of force, is how I use the apparatus of force that is available to me as a police officer adequate for the situation I'm trying to address. And so you remember when the public health measures commenced in those early days of COVID last year, there was a lot of outcry because a lot of people were being beaten up. I think we had a few killings as a result of failure to observe a curfew. And so in such a situation, the question then becomes, is the force that is being used to compel people to abide by these public health regulations adequate, or is it proportionate to what is being achieved? So what we are trying to achieve, is it proportionate to the force that we are using to achieve it? And that then becomes an issue that we need to look in. With the Embu situation, I think one of the reasons why we are seeing a lot of outcry from the people out there is because these young boys, it is said, subject to confirmation, that they were arrested for flouting curfew. And then as a result, they come out having died in circumstances that are under investigation. So when the investigations come out, we'll know what that is, what happened in the circumstances. But for someone to imagine that these people died as a result of failing to observe curfew, then it would be something that is very disproportionate. And so from a security agency perspective,